Welcome to the show. I'm Danella, and here's what's happening now. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for joining the show again this week, and let's welcome those that are listening on SoundCloud. It's so great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Okay, so here's what's happening in this week's show. So, of course, Political Pop is on deck. Okay, and this week it's going to star Hope Hicks. We got to bid her farewell. I swear it's like a revolving door. We'll get into that in a minute. Also, we're going to talk about the very creative way that bank robbers are robbing banks in Brazil, and we'll talk about the government's response to that. And then Our World is also on deck, and this week, as promised, we're going to talk about the startling difference between females and women. Wait till you hear this. This was shocking to me. This is what young urban kids think, that there is a very stark contrast between females and women. Some of you may already know this. If you're like me, you would think, aren't women female? We'll get into that later in the show. But first, a trying week for students as they return to school this week. I cannot imagine. The amount of strength and courage that these children have to return to school. Of course, the section in which the shooter attacked students is blocked off, but I cannot imagine how traumatic that would feel. So continuing to send prayers to not only to the victims, everyone that's affected, but the community, the people that are on the ground, just trying to help the children rebuild their lives and heal from this tragedy. Everybody that's supporting the families and friends of the victims. And it's interesting to kind of see there's some businesses that are taking a stand. They're not waiting for the government. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw I posted about one of these businesses, and that's Dick's Sporting Goods. Amazing. What they've decided to do is to take a stand. They're raising the age requirement to purchase a gun to 21. The other thing that they're doing, they're no longer selling the automatic rifles similar to the one that was used in the latest mass shooting. And I want to tell you what Dick's CEO, Edward Stack, you might have seen him on the news. He said this: "We don't want to be part of this story any longer." That's awesome. They're not waiting for the government to ban these guns. They're saying, hey, we're doing it. Also, Walmart. I was shocked to see this because, that's one of the things, especially in the South, you could buy beer, you could buy clothes, and you could buy your gun all in the same store. It's amazing. But Walmart is saying this. They're raising the age minimum to firearm purchases to 21 as well. They're also removing items from their website resembling assault-style rifles. That's awesome. So any type of toys or guns, they're getting rid of it. That's amazing. Walmart said this: "Our heritage as a company has always been in serving sportsmen and hunters, and we will continue to do so in a responsible way." So you already know there's going to be some type of backlash. You're seeing it with, what was it, Delta Airline? I think the Republicans there were saying, we're going to pull some of your funding. So there's going to be some backlash, but hats off to our citizens that are trying to make a change, a stand, to say, we don't want to be a part of this narrative anymore, And we know that still there's going to be these guns sold legally and illegally. But if more people make a stand, we can make a more permanent change. So hats off to them. Now, we're going to talk about weather for a bit because some of you are feeling it already. The East Coast expecting another bomb cyclone, heavy rains, strong winds, and snow, coupled with a full moon. They're expecting flooding, high wind, even snow between the mid-Atlantic all the way up to New England. If this is you, be careful. Please, careful if you're out driving. Just want to pray that you guys stay safe. Okay, now we're going to shoot over to Brazil. I was talking about this just a minute ago. Now, you might have seen this. I did not know about this. I swear the criminals in Brazil, they're so creative. This is what they're doing now. They're using bombs to blow up ATMs. And what makes this so dangerous, if you think about it, what's above some banks? People's houses. That's what's above banks. you know? And so the worry is that, their house may catch on fire or collapse. And it's been such a concern that the president there has now called in the armed forces. Now, this has happened in the past, but most recent was in 2016 during the Olympics. But now all the authority has shifted over to the armed forces in order to protect these banks. That's how serious it is. You have to call in the military. That's a sad state of affairs when the government has to call in the military to protect its people. Speaking of sad state of affairs, let's get into political pop. Here is your political pop for Friday, March 2nd. Another one bites the dust in the Trump administration. This week, Director of Communications Hope Hicks, she announced that she's planning on resigning. She resigns after admitting that she told white lies for the Trump administration. It gets kind of very tangled. Ethics has been a big problem with the Trump administration, and these types of situations add fuel to the fire. So Hope was kicking it, romantically, late nights, early mornings, with former staff secretary Rob Porter. And remember, Porter had to resign because of the whole security clearance thing. Why didn't he have top security clearance? Well, that's because of his two ex-wives speaking out and saying that they were victims of domestic abuse. And so when Chief of Staff John Kelly came out with a statement totally defending Porter and backing him up, who do you think was involved with drafting that statement? None other than the Director of Communications. There's no way that you can spin this and that it makes sense for the Trump administration. There's no way. In fact, the Trump administration is the only administration in the last 40 years to have this many people resign or fired. Again, like a revolving door. But that is your political pop. Now, on to In Our World. This week, we're talking about the difference between females and women as it relates to the youth. Now, if you're in any kind of major city, urban environment, maybe you know this. I did not know this. I'll share this with you in a way that protects the people that were involved. So, unfortunately, a friend of mine was in a town hall, if you will, and in it, just hearing from young Black men in the DC area. And just in speaking with them, asking randomly, what are your thoughts about females? And to hear what these young brothers thought. And when I say young, we're talking middle school and up to 20s, even 30s. So here's what they think. And they all agreed to this, that we're in this meeting, which when I heard this, I couldn't believe it, but this is what they think. When you think of females, you think of gold digging, want your money, you can't trust her, she's a liar. Right. Put all the negative adjectives you can. A loose woman, that kind of thing. That's female. And then hearing them talk about women. Well, what is a woman? Well, a woman holds it down. She got, one or two jobs, 2 or 3 jobs. She got your back. Wait, what? But here's the largest problem with this. I don't even think that the youth that believe this understand. So the large problem is that this belief and what it will impress upon your psyche as you grow older and, have a family of your own, not even putting in the correlation that when you speak this negatively about females, this belief that you have is also inclusive, whether you believe it or not, of your mom, of your grandmom, of your sister. And they may not believe that. They think, oh, my mom is a woman. And not understanding female gender, right? Gender. And what I've noticed, if you listen to, I'm not saying this is the cause of it, but I've noticed it being somebody that has interviewed many people, many artists, especially hip hop artists, right? I would hear the tone switch when you asked them about relationships, they would say females. And I always thought it was more of a way, just a different way of speaking. Like, instead of saying women, they would just say female, these females here. And I remember hearing that more and more with up and coming artists. They went from a place where you talk to a seasoned artist and they may say women, ladies, where my ladies at? Old school 90s, right? Then we're going to fast forward early 2000s, similar, they might say ladies, girls. But now here we are, 2018. I had no idea, or probably even 2017, I had no idea that term female is a dirty word. It's dirty. So the reason why I really wanted to talk about this is to make you aware and to share this with you. I know for myself, being a mother of a 2-year-old, I need to be able to understand what my child would have access to, my young son. As he gets older, these are his peers. So I'm sure he may hear these kind of things. And I have to help him navigate the difference. I don't feel that we fully understand how this hate towards our women tears down our families. I don't think these young adults realize this. They don't realize this. They think that in their mind there's a difference. Female, negative, woman is like your mom, multiple jobs, hold you down, got your back. That's what the thought is in their mind, but they're not realizing you're holding both of these thoughts in your mind. So in your mind, when you're dealing with a woman, maybe she only has one job, maybe she doesn't have a job, maybe she's in school, maybe she's from a broken home. And so for you, you may think, if you're young and you believe all these negative things, that all these negative things are true about her. But what if you love this woman? As you are mature and you love her and you want to build a family with her, they can't see how damaging this way of thinking will affect their relationships. They cannot see. Young men, if you're listening or watching and you believe this, please pay attention, because you can't see how this will really affect how you view relationships. And the saddest thing, it's so many levels. I don't even know if I can say saddest thing, but the other equally disheartening fact is that in this particular town hall, if you will, mostly everyone in there didn't have a father in their life. Mostly everyone in there. And it's truly sad, because we don't really understand how our views of women also affect your ability to connect, to be with a woman. And it was troubling to me. I'm thinking to myself, thank God I don't have a daughter. If you have a daughter, heads up, this is what a young child, she may have to deal with. She may have to deal with this. And we as parents, we as a community, we as the support system, we have to be aware and protect our girls and protect our young boys. We have to. In most situations, they don't have someone in the house with them saying, hey, this can be some type of girls or females, if you will, but here are other females, here are other women. But to believe that if you're a female, this is how it goes down is truly sad. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some women just like men, just people in general. There's good people, there's bad people. No one's perfect. And as we get older, as we get mature, we grow. It's just so dangerous, because how can you stay with somebody who you think is a gold digger, somebody who you think just wants your money, who's going to sleep around on you? That's what you think. How would you stick around with that person? You wouldn't. How could you even trust women if that's what you believe that's true of the females? This is true of them. This is what they'll do. How could you even have your heart open, as you mature, to love? Like, it's crazy to hear that belief was agreed upon. That's the general consensus. So yeah, that's the purpose of my vlog, my podcast, the purpose of me to be here is to shed light on the truth and for us to be able to then use that truth to change the world that we live in whichever way that we can, whether it be disseminating information, sharing stories, whether it be, oh man, now I know this is what I need to do in my own community. Some of you that watch and listen are teachers, counselors. So you might hear something and think, oh, okay, let me kind of step in and show another way. That's one way, but let me show another way. And why this is so touches home for me, I've said this before. I'm sure I have on this show. I'm sure I've said it before. But it's this idea for me, what really helped me in my life growing up was hearing other people's experiences in the world. I just remember being so blessed that when teachers would invite different parents, different people from the community and come in and they would talk about their careers or their life lessons. And I had other classmates that had great examples of parents. And so I was so blessed to hear their voices and hear their stories, and it helped me. It helped me to grow, to be a more confident person, to be a more loving person, to be a less angry person, to be less of a victim, because I was a victim, but to not let that identity continue to be who I am in the world because of those experiences that have happened to me. So this is why, I share these stories, because I want to speak to those of you that are out there in the world that have that ability to help make a difference to one person, because you truly never know how your story, just you being there to just listen, lend an ear, give a hug. You can never understand how that can forever impact somebody's life and change somebody's life. I know it has for me. So I know that it works. And I commend those of you that every day, in your own way, try to make a difference for the better in the world that we live in. So with that, we're going to wrap up this week's show. As always, thank you so much for joining the show. And thanks for your support. Those of you that for a while have been saying, get a podcast. Thank you. I got one now. And for those of you, again, you're listening on SoundCloud. I truly value you and appreciate you listening. You may not know this. You can email me. Email me at DanellaNOW.com. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment. I get them. I get emails. I respond. I appreciate them. And as you can see, I listen, thus the podcast. So again, thank you so much. Have an incredible weekend, and I will see you next week.